Are you a weak, overly sensitive, feminine, unassertive, nice guy struggling with social anxiety? Are you unsure what it means to be a man in 2024? Do you want to be more masculine but are turned off by the toxic masculinity that's promoted online? Don't worry, I was too, and so were many of the clients I've coached. The world is currently facing two linked crises of social anxiety and masculinity, and it's really important that you watch this video to see how they're related and how it's affecting you. In this video, I'll reveal my personal story of how I went from being a submissive, passive, little doormat, nice guy who was crippled with social anxiety to becoming a well-rounded masculine man who was happy and socially confident. And I'll be explaining how you can do exactly the same thing too, and all without selling out who you really are or falling into the trap of toxic masculinity as personified by people like Andrew Tate. The world right now is a very confused and confusing place, and there are multiple crises going on, but two of the very prevalent ones that I see are the social anxiety crisis and the masculinity crisis, and they're most definitely very interlinked. The Me Too movement and extreme forms of left-wing feminism have left men scared of approaching women, talking to women, and unsure of what it even means to be a masculine man in 2024. And this void has been filled with unhelpful voices like that of Andrew Tate and Donald Trump. But I've got to say, this phenomena is nothing new. Men have been gradually sliding into a crisis of masculinity since the end of the Second World War, as far as I can see. And I'd like to share my own personal story to try and highlight some of that. Now, my dad was a baby boomer, and I was brought up in his household where he was a very submissive male. My mother wore the trousers. She effectively emasculated him, and where there were three boys in the house, and all of us were also emasculated by my mother, who was very aggressive, very masculine, and very domineering. So the concept of more masculine women bossing men around is nothing really new. And this is something that I speak to with clients of all ages on my calls, from late 40s right down to early 20s. But one common theme is that they often have grown up with a very domineering, more masculine type mother figure in the house. This leads to skewed gender roles, and men are unsure of how to relate to women. In my own experience, I grew up effectively terrified of women because my mum was an iron woman. She was like the figure of Margaret Thatcher. And that meant that transferred into other areas of my life. I was always scared of women and scared to approach women. This situation is then exacerbated when we go to school, where almost all of the teachers are female. So we grow up scared of a domineering mother, and then we grow up through the school system having to respect and be deferential and scared of authoritarian female caregivers within the school. On top of this, because of the way post-industrial society is structured, the father figure is often not emotionally present. He did not play a strong role in their life. So many men, and as I say, this applies to late 40s right down to early 20s, many men have, across the generations, lacked a strong male role model, which is why you see men turning to role models online like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Andrew Tate, because they are now filling the void of strong male role models. The problem is that men are growing up in a family situation where they're controlled and dominated by masculine mothers in the household. They then go through the school system where they're dominated by masculine women or authoritarian women within the school system. On top of this, they're socialized in a society which says that they're predatory if they approach a woman or touch a woman or talk to a woman in any kind of way. And with such an extreme emphasis on LGBTQ plus rights and the transgender movement, men are now feeling that it's almost right-wing to say that I don't want to take puberty blockers, I don't want to switch sex, I don't want to be a transgender person. That's almost being seen as a form of extreme conservatism now if you're not rabidly pro-transgender. On top of this, and as a contributing factor to the masculinity crisis, is also the plummeting levels of testosterone, which can basically be seen as a testosterone crisis. And this is due to many factors. It can be environmental factors like endocrine disruptors and plastics in the food chain. It can be lack of vitamin D, can be lack of competition, can be submission in the workplace, living in an artificial environment where you're stuck behind a desk, your testosterone plummets because you're subservient, you have no challenge, you're not getting out and growing as a man and becoming more competitive as our ancestors would have. High levels of stress and obesity, dietary changes. There are many contributing factors for why we're seeing these plummeting levels of testosterone, and it all contributes to the masculinity crisis and issues around social anxiety. So what happens is you basically grow up like me, being a nice guy who's taught to be very respectful to women, never approach them, never show any sexual intent towards them, be a little doormat, be highly agreeable, be people-pleasing, make people laugh, try and get a little pat on the head, make sure everything's okay all the time, don't rock the boat. And what happens is you just become completely repressed, sexually, socially. You're not able to express any of your true opinions. In conversation, you become very boring because you're just vanilla. You don't want to say anything that might rock the boat. You don't want to give a true opinion on anything. You just become a little yes man and a total submissive people pleaser. This is all massively counterproductive in the long run because nobody respects this kind of person. People don't like you. You don't say anything of value or anything of note. You just go along passively going with the flow. Women don't respect a man like this with no backbone. So in trying trying to please everybody, you end up completely sabotaging yourself anyway in the long run. And all of this feeds into the wider social anxiety personality type. As I've said, social anxiety is a manifestation of deeper issues. It's almost just the logical outcome of all of these things that are going on within us and around us in our environment. And if you're just constantly being passive, constantly pleasing people, not being assertive, not trusting yourself, not having any strength, not having any backbone, not being proactive, not having any self-efficacy, then naturally you are going to develop social anxiety because you're too scared to say what you really think. You're too scared to stand up to anybody. You're scared of women. You're scared of your peers. And this just naturally creates social anxiety. So what's the answer then? Well, one of the main ways to overcome social anxiety, which is exactly what I did, is to become more masculine. And I don't mean in a toxic way. I think the true definition of masculinity is strength. And that means physical strength and mental strength. So first of all, get to the gym, build your physical strength, do calisthenics, do push-ups, whatever it is. Build a strong aesthetic body which is functional and looks good and moves and works well. Secondly, become more mentally strong. And this means becoming more assertive, standing up for what you believe in, saying what you mean and meaning what you say, doing what you say you're going to do, being accountable, having integrity, being responsible, being punctual. All of these things are traits of a true masculine man, not some guy who's just pumped up on steroids but can't even follow through on what he says he's going to do. True masculinity is about strength, inner strength, being a leader, being decisive, telling people what you're going to do rather than asking them a question. Oh, do you want to go to the coffee shop this weekend? You just tell them, right, let's meet up this weekend. I'll see you there at 11 o'clock. If you're texting a girl, just tell her, let's meet up. I want to see you. Let's go to Starbucks at 7 p.m. Don't ask these questions. Don't be weak and flip-floppy and indecisive. Be authentic, be responsible, be reliable, be stoic, be more rational and logical rather than overly emotional. These are all the true traits of an actual masculine man, having this real strength. So as I've said, the way to do this, you can build your physical strength by going to the gym, training martial arts, even taking more testosterone if your testosterone is low. I personally take TRT. I inject every 3 months. It works great for me. So that might be something you want to look into, but also building your inner character. And you can read Stoic philosophy. You have to practice standing up for yourself and being assertive, practice being disagreeable, send things back in shops, stop just putting your tail between your legs and walking away from situations where you know there's something you should have said. You have to practice these things. They don't just come easily and they're very, very uncomfortable at first, especially if you've had a lifetime of conditioning which has trained you to be a submissive little nice guy and a people pleaser. You will be like a little dog which is just always looking for a stroke on the head. Now you have to learn to turn around and bark back. And when you do this, the results are brilliant. You are fully integrated. You're fully aligned. You're now saying what you really mean and being the true person that you really are, voicing your true opinions, saying what you mean and meaning what you say, doing what you say you're going to do. This gives you integrity. You follow through. You feel aligned. You feel strong. You are truly yourself rather than walking away from a staff meeting and saying, I knew I should have said that thing, or I knew I shouldn't have let Sandra bully Tony in that way. That was very unfair. I should have stood up for them. So you build this self-esteem, you build this integrity, you build this respect. And not only that, other people respect it in you as well. You will gain more respect from other people. They will look at you as someone with values, with integrity, with backbone, and with inner strength. So if you recognize yourself in what we've talked about today and you need some help with this, training your inner strength and your outer strength, by all means, jump on a call with me and we'll discuss how we can help you do that.